What if you could stop being controlled by mood swings, negative loops, and impulsive reactions, and instead treat your emotions as precise signals you can read, regulate, and redirect? This audio guide gives you a compact, practical toolkit drawn from Master Your Emotions. Clear mental models, short behavioral exercises, and decision rules that convert emotional noise into useful information. No platitudes, no feel-good fluff, only repeatable moves you can use the next time anger, anxiety, or sadness shows up. Chapter 1. Naming and measuring your emotions. The first practical move is deceptively simple. Name precisely what you feel and measure its intensity. Emotions are useful signals, but they become harmful when we confuse them with facts or let them operate without calibration. Begin every emotional episode with a short diagnostic routine you can perform in under a minute. Step 1. Identify the raw sensation. Is it heat in the chest, a tight throat, a headache, or a hollowed feeling? Use sensory language rather than labels to avoid immediate story-making. Step 2. Assign a clear emotion word: anger, disappointment, shame, anxiety, boredom, avoiding compound or vague terms like upset. Step 3. Rate the intensity on a 0 to 10 scale. This numeric tag turns amorphous mood into manageable data and reduces catastrophizing because you can see change over time. Step 4. Timestamp the event and note context: what triggered it, who was present, and what you were doing. Over days, this simple ledger reveals patterns and disproves the illusion that emotions are permanent. The practical benefits are immediate. Naming recruits prefrontal systems that interrupt limbic escalation. Measurement allows you to test the effectiveness of interventions because you have before and after numbers. Context notes let you identify recurring triggers to address structurally. Implement the routine via a single-page habit card. 3 lines. Sensation, emotion label, intensity. Carry it in a notebook or a notes app. Use a short rule for when to apply it. The moment you notice activation above 3 on your internal alarm scale. If you can't catch the moment, set hourly micro-checks. Pause for 30 seconds to record whatever you feel. Chapter 2. Create an immediate tactical response map. Once you can name and measure emotions reliably, you need a fast response map. A short, actionable protocol that matches emotion types and intensities to interventions. Think of a small toolkit where each tool has clear input conditions and predictable outputs. For mild agitation, intensity 1 to 3, use micro-contacts, 5 deep breaths, a 2-minute walk, or a single sensory anchor, like holding a cold cup of water. For moderate states, 4 to 6, deploy brief behavioral experiments. Write 1 paragraph about the trigger, call a trusted friend for 2 minutes, or change location for 10 minutes. For high-intensity states, 7 to 10, apply safety-first strategies. Remove yourself from the environment, delay critical decisions, use a breathing pattern that lengthens exhalation for physiological downregulation, and if necessary, contact support. The map must be written and visible. A single laminated card with emotion ranges and corresponding steps prevents improvisation under stress. The operational rule is to always match intensity to response strength, avoiding overcorrection and underreaction. Over time, refine the map by tracking which interventions reduce intensity by how many points within 20 minutes. This evidence lets you replace guesswork with reliable sequences. Chapter 3. Interrupting negative loops with microprotocols. Negative spirals occur when emotion triggers repetitive thought patterns that amplify arousal. The antidote is a portfolio of short interruption protocols designed to break the loop within seconds. One effective micro-protocol is the 5-3-1 sensory reset. Name 5 external objects, count 3 deep breaths, and list 1 constructive next action. This redirects attention to the environment, engages breath regulation, and produces an immediate, doable step. Another protocol is cognitive reframing in 2 sentences. Identify the catastrophic thought and offer a concrete counter-scenario that reduces probability and impact. This feels like failure now, but the evidence for long-term ruin is weak. A single corrective step is available. Behavioral anchors work well too. A quick physical action, such as standing up, stepping outside for sun, or squeezing a stress ball, produces sensory-motor interruption and lowers cognitive loops. Time-bound distraction is useful. Commit to 1 focused short task, 2 minutes of sorting email, a brief puzzle, to exhaust rumination cycles. The crucial rule is simplicity. Choose protocols that require minimal cognitive work because rumination reduces executive capacity. Train these protocols by practicing twice daily in low-stress moments so they become reflexive. Chapter 4. Rewriting internal scripts. From reactivity to response. A large portion of emotional pain stems from internal scripts, automatic narratives we run when events occur. Rewriting these scripts requires identifying the recurrent story, testing its accuracy, and crafting a shorter, functional alternative. Use a 3-step method. Identify the script, audit the evidence, and create a replacement line. Identification involves writing out the automatic narrative you tell yourself in moments of activation. The audit is an evidence check. List objective facts that support or contradict the narrative. Most scripts fail the evidence test on closer inspection. The replacement is a concise, pragmatic sentence, no more than 10 words, that you can repeat under stress, such as, "This is hard but fixable," or "I can choose 1 small step, now." Rehearse the replacement in calm moments and pair it with breath to build embodied association. To ensure durability, design experiments that challenge the old script, deliberately act in ways that contradict its predictions, and record outcomes. Chapter 5. Boundary Architecture. Protecting emotional energy. Emotional regulation is easier when your environment and commitments preserve capacity. Boundary architecture is the deliberate design of limits that conserve emotional energy. Time boundaries, informational boundaries, and relational boundaries. Time boundaries include fixed hours for deep work, mandatory recovery windows, and limits on late-night social media. Informational boundaries mean curating news and social feeds to reduce negativity exposure and scheduling specific times for consuming potentially upsetting content. Relational boundaries involve saying no to requests that drain you and defining acceptable communication patterns with key people, short response windows, preferred channels, and explicit opt-outs for emotionally risky topics. Chapter 6. Build an emotional toolbox. Skills you can practice. Daily create a compact toolbox of skill drills, breath sequencing, labeling, cognitive reframing, micro-protocols, grounding exercises, and short behavioral experiments. Assign 1 drill to each day of the week and practice for 5 to 10 minutes. For Monday, deep breath practice. Tuesday, writing a thought audit. Wednesday, exposure to mild discomfort with a recovery plan. Thursday, gratitude naming to counterbalance negativity bias. Friday, assertive boundaries, rehearsal with role play. Saturday, movement, and sensory reset. Sunday, weekly pattern review. The distributed practice model prevents overload and promotes steady skill acquisition. Keep metrics simple, frequency of practice, and self-rated calm before bed. Over months, the toolbox shifts reflexive reactions into trained responses. Chapter 7. The role of values in emotion. Management emotions aligned with values have a different quality. They provide fuel rather than noise. Clarify 2 to 4 core values and test your daily choices against them. When emotions arise, ask, which value is being activated? If anger surfaces at perceived injustice, and justice is a core value, the emotion becomes informative and action-oriented. Conversely, if anxiety arises around status, and status is not a prioritized value, you can deprioritize the fear and reallocate energy. Use a short daily check-in. List one choice you made that day that aligned with a value and one choice that didn't. Values-based alignment reduces inner conflict and channels emotion into purposeful action. Chapter 8. Recovery Rituals After Emotional Storms. Storms happen, recovery rituals reduce their residual harm. Design a post-activation sequence, brief physical decompression, movement, hydration, a 10-minute reflective log capturing facts, not stories, a social reconnection step, a brief safe conversation, and a restorative activity, music, nature, light exercise. Schedule the sequence into your day as non-negotiable after major events. The key is containment. Limit post-storm rumination by moving into structured recovery that produces measurable restoration within hours rather than days. Chapter 9. Social Calibration, Choosing Support and Limits. Not all social input helps. Calibrate your support network by mapping who stabilizes you, who escalates you, and who is neutral. Use this map to direct whom you call in different emotional states. One person for validation, one for problem-solving, and one for distraction. Communicate simple requests. Can you listen for 5 minutes without advising? Practice asking for what you need. Periodically prune relationships that chronically add volatility and invest in those that reliably increase baseline regulation. Chapter 10. Habitual Audit, Tracking Change Without Judgment. Finally, implement a non-judgmental habit audit. At the end of each week, note 3 data points, 1 trigger, 1 response, and 1 measurable outcome. Use a simple spreadsheet to chart trends over months, frequency of high-intensity episodes, average recovery time, and most effective interventions. Review monthly and choose one focused adjustment. The audit turns subjective improvement into objective progress and preserves motivation because change becomes visible. Regular measurement paired with ethical self-kindness is the engine that converts techniques into lasting emotional competence. Chapter 11. Cognitive distancing creates space between feeling and self. Cognitive distancing is the practical habit of stepping back from emotion to observe it rather than become it. The routine begins with a single question. What am I experiencing right now, separate from the story about it? Practically train a 30-second script. Name the sensation, tight chest, hot face. Name the emotion it points to, anger, shame, anxiety. Then say aloud or write, "This is an emotion, not a fact." That short verbal delimiter recruits prefrontal resources and interrupts immediate identification. Combine the script with a brief physical separator, stand up, change posture, or move 1 meter away from the trigger to reinforce the mental step with body feedback. The technique works because emotions are normally fused with narrative. I feel guilty, therefore I am a failure. Distancing inserts a gap where evaluation and choice can enter. To make it habitual, practice in low-stakes moments. When irritation about a delayed email appears, run the 30-second routine and note the shift in impulse strength. Use a simple metric to calibrate progress. Rate fusion on a 0 to 10 scale before and after distancing. Aim for 2-point reductions within 2 weeks. Distancing pairs well with the naming and measuring habit introduced earlier because data reduces story potency. Next, layer a short curiosity probe once arousal reduces. What evidence supports the narrative? What evidence contradicts it? This converts raw emotion into hypotheses that can be tested rather than battles to be fought. For persistent triggers, schedule a 30-minute review where the recurring emotion is mapped to contexts, thought patterns, and behavioral consequences. That map becomes the basis for targeted interventions, boundary changes, script rewrites, or direct behavior experiments. Ethical use includes humility. Distancing should not be used to dismiss others' feelings or to avoid accountability. Instead, use it to create clarity so the response aligns with values and long-term goals. Over months, cognitive distancing increases the time between impulse and action, which is the practical definition of emotional mastery. The daily micro-routine, name, label, distance, probe, turns reactivity into reflective action and builds durable psychological space. Chapter 12. Acceptance and commitment. Choose values over avoidance. Acceptance and commitment is a behavior-first approach. Accept unavoidable feeling energy while committing to value-directed actions. The practical protocol begins by clarifying 2 core values and translating each into one concrete behavior. For example, if one value is family connection, the behavioral translation might be a weekly 30-minute phone call. If another value is health, translate to a daily 10-minute walk. When strong negative emotion appears, practice a 2-step acceptance move. Physically breathe into the feeling for 30 seconds while repeating a short acceptance phrase, "This is present and I can still act," and then immediately perform the value-aligned micro-action. The point is not to eliminate emotion, but to refuse its veto power over chosen behaviors. To operationalize, build an if, feel, then do chart. If fear rises above 6, then perform a 2-minute grounding walk and call 1 supportive contact. If sadness lingers after 24 hours, then schedule a 20-minute activity aligned with meaning. Commitments must be small and repeatable, so they win against inertia. Track adherence on a simple calendar and score days where values-directed action occurred despite unpleasant emotion. Use short after-action notes to evaluate friction points and adapt micro-actions. Acceptance also includes pragmatic boundaries. Choose contexts where acceptance is safe and not self-harming. Do not accept continual abuse. Instead, accept the discomfort of boundary enforcement. Combine acceptance training with exposure experiments for avoided emotions. Schedule graduated tasks that safely reintroduce feared stimuli while maintaining value actions. Over time, this builds psychological flexibility, the ability to hold strong feeling while moving toward meaningful goals. The metric of success is less about feeling change and more about increase in value, congruent behaviors per week. Acceptance and commitment turns emotional experience into a data-bearing background against which the life one values is built. Chapter 13. Exposure and desensitization. Systematic practice to reduce. Avoidance. Emotional avoidance fuels chronic distress. Exposure is the systematic graded reintroduction to feared situations to reduce avoidance-driven escalation. Start by building a fear hierarchy. List situations that elicit distress from least to most activating and assign intensity ratings. Select the lowest level item and design a short, repeatable exposure, 2 to 5 minutes, performed daily for 1 week. The exposure should be specific and measurable. For social anxiety, a 5-minute conversation starter in a controlled setting. For guilt around confrontation, a 5-minute script rehearsal with a trusted friend. Use a tight monitoring protocol. Measure pre-exposure intensity, perform exposure, then measure 3 and 30 minutes post-exposure to capture immediate habituation and short-term recovery. Gradually increase intensity only after consistent reductions in peak arousal. Include safety behaviors only when necessary and phase them out as habituation occurs. Counterproductive patterns often reintroduce avoidance via reassurance seeking, resist quick escapes, and allow the exposure window to complete. To optimize learning, pair exposures with brief cognitive reviews: what thoughts occurred, what evidence contradicted catastrophes, and with small rewards for persistence. Where exposures trigger high-intensity responses, coordinate with a therapist or coach to ensure pacing and safety. Group exposures can be powerful because shared practice normalizes reactions and provides social reinforcement. Chapter 14. Self-compassion. Practices. Replacing. Self-criticism with supportive care. Self-compassion is an actionable skill set that undercuts the vicious cycles created by harsh self-talk. The practice begins with 3 micro-routines: soothing touch, compassionate phrasing, and corrective action planning. Soothing touch is a brief physical gesture, hand over heart, gentle shoulder rub, held for 30 seconds to down-regulate arousal via sensory feedback. Compassionate phrasing requires crafting a set of 3 short statements that respond to inner criticism. I'm doing my best in hard circumstances. Everyone struggles sometimes. What tiny step can I take next? Repeat them when internal judgment spikes. Chapter 15. Social emotion. Management. Navigate shame, pride, and jealousy. Social emotions regulate relationships but can become distorted. Managing them requires translating feeling into social signal work. For shame, practice micro-repair, a brief acknowledgement plus a corrective behavior. Example script: I realize my comment landed poorly. I'll clarify and ask how I can fix it. For pride that alienates, translate it into social calibration by offering explicit appreciation to others. Name a contribution and its effect. Jealousy benefits from curiosity protocols. Map what specifically is feared: loss, comparison, scarcity. Then request clarifying information from the partner or context rather than assuming motive. Chapter 16. Anger. Regulation, channeling energy into constructive action. Anger is mobilizing energy that must be channeled. Begin with a fast physical check. If pulse and breath exceed a threshold, subjective rating above 6, pause and apply a 3-breath down-regulation, followed by a 60-second action plan. The plan answers 3 micro-questions. What specifically triggered me? What outcome do I want? What is a single, proportional action I can take now? This directs anger toward a defined problem and away from diffuse venting. Chapter 17. Anxiety tools, practical moves to short-circuit. Catastrophe. Anxiety thrives on future projection. Counter it with 3 practical moves: horizon compression, contingency mapping, and sensory grounding. Horizon compression reduces scope. Ask, what can I do in the next 90 seconds? to convert future dread into immediate action. Contingency mapping lists plausible outcomes and a one-line plan for each, which reduces imagined worst-case salience. Sensory grounding anchors the body. Name 5 things seen, 4 things felt, 3 sounds, then perform a short procedural task. Chapter 18. Grief and Sadness, Rituals for Honoring Loss and Rebuilding. Meaning grief requires both honoring and gradual reinvestment. Build a short ritual sequence, name the specific loss, allocate 5 to 10 minutes of focused remembrance, writing, music, or memory sharing, then perform a small reinvestment act toward continuity, a photo album, a commemorative walk, or a dedication of routine time. The ritual acknowledges pain without allowing it to monopolize life. Pair routines with social anchors. Schedule a bi-weekly call with a supportive person and a monthly active project that carries forward the relationship or meaning. Chapter 19. Relapse. Prevention. Build systems to maintain gains. Sustained emotion mastery requires systems. Construct a relapse prevention plan with early warning signs, automatic supports, and escalation rules. Early signs might include increased rumination, avoidance spikes, or inconsistent sleep. Link each sign to a predefined micro-response, extra sleep hygiene, increased practice of grounding, or a short coaching call. Automate supports, calendar, recurring practice slots, set environmental boundaries, and maintain a visible toolkit card. Escalation rules specify when to seek help, 3 days of high-intensity episodes, or functional impairment triggers, contacting a professional. Keep a recovery log to review patterns quarterly and adjust thresholds. Prevention reframes maintenance as active work rather than passive stability. Chapter 20. Integrating a daily emotional practice. Design a sustainable routine. Integration turns discrete techniques into a coherent daily architecture. Build a simple morning micro-routine. 5 minutes of naming an intention, 3 minutes of breath practice, and 1 value-aligned micro-action. Midday, run a 2-minute cognitive distancing check and a brief boundary reset. Evening practice includes a 5-minute reflective habit audit and 1 micro-compassion exercise. Keep tools visible, a 1-page emotional toolkit on the phone or desk. Use weekly reviews to adjust practice intensity and to celebrate small behavioral wins. Keep metrics lean, practice days per week, average recovery time, and 1 outcome metric tied to values, better conversations, fewer angry outbursts. Integration is iterative, test, measure, adapt. Over months, the architecture converts skills into default responses and increases resilience. Conclusion. From techniques to temperament, small habits, lasting, mastery. Mastering emotions is incremental architecture, small, repeatable rituals, clear mapping from feeling to action, and systems that preserve gains. The path is practical. Name sensations, match intensity to interventions, rehearse micro-routines, and build environmental and social supports. Track simple metrics, maintain ethical boundaries, and use exposure and acceptance when appropriate. Progress is non-linear but cumulative. Daily consistent practice transforms reactivity into choice and creates a temperament that responds rather than ruptures. Start with 1 micro-habit today, name 1 feeling and choose 1 value-aligned act, and let disciplined repetition do the rest.